Perfect. Alrighty, so welcome back, everybody. What we're gonna do tonight, I just went sit tonight, is we are going to actually start with our WH question words first, and then after that, we'll get started with our people signs. So, and the first sign we're gonna do, I'm gonna try to fix my computer. The lighting from like the sunset is just such an odd spot right there. And I was like, I thought we were good and it's not acting right. So if it gets too dark, I will go turn my light on. But so the first sign we're gonna do is the sign for who. Now, if you remember back when we talked about what is your name, we talked about how when you're asking a WH question word, that first there's a couple of rules. I think there's two rules. I had to think for a minute which one. The first one is that you are going to put your question word at the end of the sentence. Okay. So when we're asking, who are you? It's you who, like, who are you? You who, or that girl who. Okay. The other thing is our eyebrows. All right. If you remember our eyebrows going down is a WH question word. Eyebrows going up is a yes or no question. Okay. So with that, our first one we're going to do is who. For who, there are two ways you can do it. The first one is you're going to have this L. You're going to put your thumb on your chin, and then you're going to bend your finger. Who, 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 who. Now, this one, I know you haven't seen too many other signs to have noticed. Most of the time when you're signing things, you tend to kind of keep your mouth closed. You don't want to always do this whole mouthing as I'm talking. I'm asking you a question. It's more so you want it to be kind of your mouth closed while you're signing. This mouth movement a lot of times is very distracting. So it's better to just kind of keep your mouth closed and then sign. Now with that though, who is an interesting one because that one you actually do
In ASL, hang on. I'm making notes.
Miss Katie, you're talking. I could hear
This
slight
is
noise, but I was like, I
this
know
is
her. I know.
Henry's fault. I apologize. This is the 13-year-old's fault. He's bugging me.
I just heard the slight noises. I was like, it's okay. And then when she spoke, I was like, no, she doesn't know. She doesn't know. But with the who, I've seen most of the time people will actually do the pursed lip for the who, like the ooh sound. Ooh, ooh. Even people who are profoundly deaf and have never really heard any speech ever, they will still do the ooh sound. Ooh, ooh. Or not the sound, the shape, my bad. Ooh, ooh. The other way to do who is it's that same setup, but now instead of bending your finger, you just go straight down. Ooh, 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 ooh. Mhm. Either way works. And again, neither one of them is better or worse. They're just kind of the same. It's just kind of a different opinion on it. All right. The next one, my phone has the setup of the list and it will not behave and it keeps sliding and it keeps catching my eye on the corner of my eye. So I'm trying to leave it to where it will stay. Um, the next one we're going to do is what. So if you remember from what is your name, which we did a couple weeks ago, what is you have your hands up and you go what? What? I am going to turn that light on. The shadowing and lighting is just it's an odd setup. Let's see. Okay, I think that's a bit, yeah, that's better. That is much, much better. I could just see like the shadowing of my hand. I was like, I can't stand this anymore. It's too dark for even my hands to keep the shadows right. So we have our what, what, okay. Then for when, what you're going to do is you're going to have your two pointer fingers. You're going to put them together like this. And your dominant hand is your dominant finger, pointer finger is going to go in a circle. When, when. And you do typically have this going forward and then coming back. When, 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 when. Okay. For where, what you're going to do is you'll have your pointer finger. You're going to slightly bend it. So not a full X, just a slight bend. Okay. And you go where, where. Shake it back and forth. Where, where. Okay. Then our last one, why. Why has three different ways you can sign it. And it is all completely up to you, whichever one you prefer. So the first one we're going to do is the more kind of formal why. And you're going to start at the side of your head like this. And this sign right here, tapping on the side, is no, like I know, like knowledge, no. Okay? So just a little fun little add in there, no. What you're going to do is you're going to pull your hand back into a Y. 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 So if you remember the Y shape, so Y. 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 Okay, Y. All right. The other way is going to have a similar setup, but now you're going to have your middle finger touch the side of your head, and you're going to go Y. 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 Mm-hmm. Y. Y. It's just the middle finger bends. Y. Then the final one, it's the shortest one. That's the way I was trying to think. It was like the slowest. I almost said slowest. That's why I was like, it's not. It's the shortest one. Is you're gonna have that middle finger again, and you just bounce it on the side of your head. Why? 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 Mm-hmm. Why? So it's almost like you can tell what goes from that really professional why to why to why, why. You can see like that progression that goes with it. This one I do see often, and I can admit I'm real notorious for this one. If I'm asking in a big meeting a question, I will typically do the why. But if I'm just having that general conversation with others and I'm asking, I'll just go why. Why? That worked, then it worked. Why? Kind of deal. Why? Okay, so let's go back. So we had our who, who, or who. Either one you can choose. Who. Okay. What? 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 When? 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 Mm-hmm. Where? 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 Mm-hmm. And then why? Why? Oh, why? There we go. Why? I know. Okay. Let's do those again. I know those are complicated. So you start with the tap of your side of your head and you're just going to pull it into this Y. So your three fingers pull in. Y. 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 My pinky likes to stay up with that one sometimes. Y. Y. Okay. Then the other one is just the middle finger attaches and you pull it out. Y. 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 Mm-hmm. And then the short one, you just Y. 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 Same middle finger, it just bounces. Why? Really? Why? Sorry, my dog was growling at the other one because he was getting too close in her food area, and it's like they're fine, but she always has to act like she's the big boss. I'm like, seriously, you are this big. You are this big. He is 4 times the size of you. Okay. So the next few we're gonna do is we are going to talk about how. Okay. And the reason I say few is how and then like how much or how many. Okay. How is an interesting one because when you are talking about the phrasing like how are you, you don't actually do the you how. You actually do follow how are you. And there's a reason for that. It's just kind of a smoother process. But so the sign for how, two similar ways. One is just multiple bounces, one is one. So you're gonna put your thumbs together like this, and you go how, 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 how. How. So just one thumb just kind of bounces a little. How? How? Okay. The other way is you still have that same setup, but now you go how? How? With one time. How? How? Okay. So that's what I meant by it's multiple bounces versus how. One bounce or one move. How? Okay. So when we are to say, excuse me, my nose has been so itchy. It's been doing that for the past 3 weeks. When we say, how are you? You will literally just go, how you. How are you? How are you? How you? Okay? You still do want to keep your eyebrows down because you're asking them for a more elaborate answer instead of just a yes or no. So, how are you? How are you? How you? Okay? And the nice thing is it does kind of get its very smooth process where it's just whoop, whoop. It's not like it's two separate. How you? It's how are you? How are you? Okay? The last we're going to do is how much or how many. They are the same sign. And what you do is you're going to do, if I was going to say, kind of changes slightly a bit if you're talking about money versus talking about how many you need. But that's just only because with money, you would add the money sign, which this is money. This is like holding dollars, money, money. Okay. But so what you do is you go, how much? So you have two S's face down or palm up, sorry, and you go up. How much? How much? How much? So apples, how much? How many? How many apples? Apples. How many? Okay. So that one you wouldn't have to do how many. You just go, how many? How many? Okay. The cool thing with that one is it kind of can answer its own question. So if you're asking, how many? Many. So your eyebrows change how it says. So if you're keeping your eyebrows down, you are asking, how many? How many? But if you have your eyebrows more relaxed and this kind of face, you're saying many. Like that's a lot. So that's where it really is important. Your eyebrows do kind of help make a difference because if you're talking to someone and you're trying to ask them how many, but you go, many, many, they may be like, many what? What are you talking about? Kind of deal. So I have seen that be a confusing conversation. I think I was a part of that. I wasn't the one confused. One of my kiddos was signing this multiple times, like this multiple times. And I was like, what? What? And they're like, I was like, what are you asking me? And they finally, like, what are you saying? And they finally were like, how many? And I was like, how many eyebrows? And they're like, oh, yeah, your straight face does not work on this. And they're like, okay. So it can kind of trick people sometimes. Okay, let's do these two. Then we'll move on to people. So we had how, how, or how, either way. Okay. And then how many, how much? How many? How many? How many? How many? Okay. Oh, I lied. There's one more. I'm sorry. There is one more. I know. I do that. Sometimes I'll catch myself and I go, wait a minute. I want to add this. And I don't think we've ever actually add this one here in this group, but we definitely need to add this one because this is a very common one. There's a sign for what are you doing? Okay. The way it is worded, I'm trying to figure out how to voice this. I cannot figure out how to word it. How it is written, kind of deal, is the English like translation is what do, what do. Okay, so that's what it's called. Is what do, and what it is, it just means what are you doing? Okay, what you do is you're gonna have like those baby sharks, those 20s. You're gonna point them up like this, and then you bring your eyebrows down to ask the question. What are you doing? What do? What are you doing? You can one hand. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? That one, as a teacher, is a very fun one. Okay. I ask that one about 20 times a day. What are you doing? What are you doing? And they're like, nothing. I'm like, you're not writing. Or you're not writing the problem. You're not writing your name. I will bust them all the time with that one. What are you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What are you doing? So that one is a fun one. I just had to add that because I feel like that one deserves more attention than it gets. It does not get enough. So, okay. Now we're going to move on to people. What we're going to do first, if I pull up my list, there we go. Want to make sure we get through this because sometimes there are a few people signs that always get forgotten. So I want to add those in so we have them. The first sign we're going to do is the sign for mom and dad. Okay. We're going to do those first and then man and woman. You will see what I mean when we go through it. All right. So the first one we're going to do is the sign for mom. And the sign for mom is you're going to have a 5 and your thumb is going to touch your chin. Mom. Mom. You can tap a little or just keep it straight one as long as you're not making too much movement with it. Just kind of keeping it here. Mom. All right. Mom. Dad. it's going to be the same thing, but on our forehead. Dad, dad. Dad. Okay. For parents, you're just going to literally do mom, dad, dad, mom, whichever. Parents, parents, or parents. It really does not matter which one you do first. They are still used. They see, whenever you see both of the signs, they just know parents. Okay. So then we have man and woman. So for woman, excuse me, you're going to start here like we have our mom, and then you're going to bring it to your chest. Woman, woman. Okay. Woman. Then for man, same thing, but just with our forehead. Man, man, man. Sometimes I have seen some people, what they'll do is they'll have that A and they'll go down like this. So woman, man. That's just kind of more of exposure. Some people I have seen sign that. I do typically see more woman, man deal. Okay. Now, there's something I was going to say this. Why is it disappearing on me? Man, I had something I was going to add here and I just went away, just completely dropped. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to do the sign for family. So the sign for family is you're going to have two F's. You're going to put them together like your pointer fingers kind of deal. And then you're going to make a circular motion to your pinky's touch. Family, 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 family. I did just remember what I was going to talk about, but I'll pause it and talk about this first. So with family, what I wanted to say is this general motion that we're doing here, that F right here, but it's that same concept. This is going to be the same sign you will see for things when talking about a group. Okay. It can be talking about a class. It can be talking about a team, a group, a department, like not a department store, but like a department. Um, a family, all of those are going to have that same motion. Now, typically, the more ASL way is you would just kind of, not with family. Family has its own. It does keep that F. But most of the others, like a class, a team, a group, you would keep it that general wide C motion. Okay? That's like for all of them. But sometimes that can be easily get complicated, can get confusing, especially, I don't know if any of y'all ever played any sports, but when you're talking about your team versus talking about your class, that's a big difference. Okay, there are big conversation differences in that. And so sometimes people will tend to add the English letters to make it a little bit more clear on what you're saying. And so with that, some people will like for group, it's the G, group, group, group. For team, it's the T's, team, team, team. Class is still similar to that, but sometimes with that C, class, class. So those are just certain ways that maybe it is, I mean, not maybe, it is more English, but it can help be a little bit more specific. And I can admit I do use those more. I do use more of the English-based signs with that, mainly because like I am a person like I played sports. It's very different. When I'm talking about my team, I'm talking about my team. If I'm talking about my class, I'm talking about my class. There's a big difference. We're not having this mixed confusion. It's just that's the one thing that I'm like, they're separate. So I do follow with that English, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's not full ASL. Okay. Now, with that, what I wanted to say earlier with mom, dad, man, and woman is you're going to notice, if you haven't already, an ongoing pattern with our male and female signs. What that means is that typically your female signs are going to be around your chin area. Okay. Your male signs are going to be up here around your head. And that's going to be a consistent thing. So keep that in the back of your mind. That is a helpful tidbit, just so you know who you're talking about. Okay. So our next one we're going to do is the sign for son and daughter. Okay. Or talk about those. Before we actually sign those, we need to get 3 other signs put in. Okay? And the reason I say that is the way son and daughter work is it's going to combine these signs. The first one is the sign for baby. The sign for baby is very easy. It's just like you're holding a baby. And you don't have to go full dramatic with the arms swinging back and forth. You can just go baby, like this, baby. It's kind of simple, baby. Okay? Just think about holding a baby, how you would hold a baby. All right? The next one is the sign for boy. So the sign for boy is boy, boy. Think like a baseball cap. That's always what I use. I know girls can have baseball caps. I have baseball caps, but I always just say a baseball cap. Boy. Okay? Then for girl, you're going to have that thumbs up, my bad. I realized as I said thumb, I was like, that did not sound like it was supposed to. Thumbs up. And if you remember when we did our everyday, we did this repetitive motion. So girl is similar, but it's that one-time slide. Girl. Okay? So you don't want to repeat it. You just want to go one time. Girl. Okay? So boy, girl. All right? And then our baby sign. So how you would say son and daughter is going to literally be boy baby, girl baby. So you go for daughter, it's girl baby, daughter, girl baby. Okay. Then for son, it is boy baby, boy baby, boy baby. Now, someone asked me in a class a couple of, not semesters, a couple of sessions ago, what about when they're grown? Like they're adults, they're not babies anymore. They're still my children, but they're not my babies. Like they're adult children, they have their own children. You would still sign daughter, son, sorry. Daughter, son. Um, it's still going to be that way because they are your child. Even if they aren't your babies, they were your babies or still could be your babies. So you would still keep that even if you're talking about adult children. You can typically, that's where you add that sign for age. You can talk about like, okay, they're age 30. So then someone can get the visual, oh, we're not talking about young little children. No, we're talking about adult sons and daughters. Okay? All right. The next one we're going to do is we're going to do the sign for children, since we already talked about son and daughter. We're going to do children and kids. Either way, it's up to you. Neither one it's kind of a preference thing again. Do you talk about kids or do you talk about children? So the sign for children, very simple, is you just go children. It's like you're patting their heads. Children, children, children. Very simple, children. Okay? The sign for kids is going to be, I always like to think of the rock and roll sign. Sorry, my brain was really stuttering on that. Rock and roll, and you're going to put your pointer finger under your nose. Kids, 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 kids. So when I talk about my school kids, I always say my school kids, kids. Okay? Let's pause because I know we just did a lot and I realized we have not gone back and reviewed any of those. My bad. I got too excited talking about all the concepts of families. All right. So the first time we had was mom and dad. So mom, dad. Okay. And then if you remember parents, it's just both parents, parents, either way. We had woman, 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 man, man. Okay. Then we had family, 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 family. Then we had baby, baby, baby. And then we had girl, girl, girl. Son, boy, boy. Then we had daughter, daughter, daughter. And then son, son, son. Okay. Then I realized we really did just keep going. My bad. Every time I keep going, then I'm like, wow, I did not chunk it at all this time. My bad. We had children, 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 children. Okay. And then kid or kids, kid, kid, kid. Okay. Now we're going to talk about our siblings, aunts and uncles, and then cousins, and then grandparents. Okay. Those are our last little bits for that. So for your siblings, it's going to be the same sign, but again, one's at your chin and one's at your forehead. Okay. So for always have to struggle, not struggle to set it up. It's just always I say it and then I just slightly change it every time. You're gonna have two L's. All right. Your non-dominant, you're gonna close that thumb so it goes back to that kind of pointer finger, but it's not like your thumb is resting. Okay. You're gonna turn it sideways. Your dominant, the back of the thumb is going to go to your chin. Okay. And then what you do is like facing forward kind of deal. Yeah, there you go. You're going to put this finger on top of the other. I'm going to turn sideways so you see it. Sister, 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 sister. Okay. Sister. It is very important you keep this finger straight and it does touch your chin. If you have it away like this, that looks like the sign for correct or right. All right, so it is important you do touch your face. Sister, sister, sister. Okay? Then brother, same setup, haven't changed, but just from your forehead. Brother, brother, brother. Okay? So sister, brother. And again, I feel we can kind of figure this. If I'm talking about siblings, like brothers and sisters, you would just do the same concept we did with parents, where we'd go sister, brother, or brother, sister, either way. Okay? All right. Next one we have is our aunt. So for aunt, what you're going to do is you're going to have that A for aunt, and you're going to have it near your chin. So it's not on your chin, but near. And you're going to shake your A. Okay? Aunt, aunt, aunt. Okay? Then we have uncle. Uncle is just going to be a U, and it's going to be on the side of your forehead. Uncle, uncle. Okay? So aunt, uncle. Okay? I think those are a little bit easier because they have the letters with them. They help a lot. Okay. For our cousins, it's going to be similar to aunt and uncle, but with the C. Okay? So girl cousins down here, cousin. Boy cousins up here, cousin. And the nice thing is, if it really doesn't matter if you're talking about a boy or girl cousin, you're just saying, I have a cousin or there's cousins. You can do a generic cousin right here where it's the C is like, it's almost like your ears right here. Cousin, just cousin. Keep it simple, cousin. And so you don't always have to go up here, down here for cousins. You can just be kind of simple in this little area of cousins. Okay? All right. Let's do grandma and grandpa and then we'll review. All right? So for grandma, grandmother, grandmere, grandmama, whatever you use for your grandmother, it is going to be the same sign in ASL. All right. So nobody come at me, well, how do you say meemaw, mama? It's the same sign. All right. So you're going to have that 5, like our mom, set up here again. This time you're going to bounce it out. Grandma, grandma, grandma. Okay. Grandma, grandma. Okay, so grandmother, grandma. All right. Then for grandpa, pawpaw, papaw, whichever one you use, still here in grandpa. All right. You're going to do the same thing here and bounce out. Grandpa, grandpa, grandpa. Okay. We have had some people ask, what about if you're a great grandparent? What do you say? Typically, you will finger spell great and then do granddad or great grandma. The reason is because this, you could keep doing that. I actually had a student one time do that. It was really, really funny. I'm sorry, I have to tell this story. I've said it so many times. I personally think it's very funny. Um, it was his great grandmother, and he wanted to talk about how, like, what was it he was talking about? We're talking about family and we're talking about like history and all that. And he literally was talking about, well, yeah, my great, and he was trying to do, some kids will go, my great, 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 great grandmother, that sort of deal. So he decided to do that. And he went, my great, and he made the face of like it just kept going and doing this farther away from his hand, like as far as possible. And so I laughed. I was like, okay, but we're talking about your grandmother. We're not our great grandmother. We're not talking about your great 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 20 years behind us, 20 years, 20 generations behind us. We're talking about this one. But I just always I laughed seeing how he did that because in my mind it just really made that connection of like hearing kids and deaf kids are very similar. They're the same thing. They're the same thing. They're the same. They're going to make up with the language. They're going to play with it like kids do, like hearing kids do all the time, where they make jokes about being 1 million years old. Deaf kids make that joke all the time. I have been apparently aged 1,000 years every year. I get a new year. I get 1,000. Every 1 year of teaching is 1,000 years to some of these kids. And I'm like, okay, interesting choice. Good. And I just kind of like, does not bother me. So I always love to see that creativity that the kids have with the language. So there's just a little fun story for that. Okay. And I'll add this before we review. Grandparents. Grandparents, same thing. Grandma, grandpa. Grandma, grandpa, or grandpa, grandma, whichever. Okay? So let's go back. We had our sister. So if you remember, your non-dominant has that kind of flat L. Your dominant has that actual L. All right? Sister. Sister. So you put put the back of your thumb on your chin. Sister. 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 And then brother, brother, brother. Okay. We had our aunt, aunt, aunt. And then our uncle, uncle. And then our cousins, girl cousin, boy cousin, cousins. Okay. Then we had our grandma, grandma, and grandpa, grandpa. Okay. All right. I know I've given you lots of family signs. But I want to talk about the next thing we're going to talk about is I was hoping we'll get to people. We may touch a little bit of it, but I do want to explain how you would introduce your family and how you would list your family. Okay. And so this is also going to go with how you would list things. So like if you're listing what you need supplies wise or what you're getting from the grocery store or things like that, how you would list an ASL. Okay. And I know that may sound like, well, it shouldn't be that difficult and stuff. There is a visual setup for it. That is why I want to talk about it. So for me, for example, I luckily do have 5 members of my family, so I get a perfect 5. It works well. So when I'm talking about my family, I'm going to say my family, and I'm going to turn my hand like this. 5. This is showing that I'm about to go literally through like a checklist of who's in my family. All right. And I'm going to go first, second, third, fourth, fifth. All right. So I typically, what I will do is I'll go my family, 5, dad, and I'll point to each one. Mom, me, sister. Really should do this, but sometimes you get lazy and you just go sister. I shouldn't, but I do that. Catch it. And then brother. Okay. I like to go a little bit in parents, I don't care. More so with my siblings, I like to go in age order. And I feel like that does help, especially if you're talking about a younger sister versus an older sister. You want to kind of keep yourselves in like your chronological age. So I'm the oldest, so I'm at the top. My sister is my brother and sister are twins, but we've always identified my sister as the second sibling, and then he's the third because they're 3 minutes apart. Those 3 minutes are a big deal. If you know any twins in your life, that's a big deal, okay? So sister always comes first and then brother. And that's how I will keep them. So it is important whenever you decide to list your family, you kind of want to keep them in that spot. You want them to stay in that spot. And the reason is because if you are ever having a conversation, you're talking about your family, let's say I had let's say I just have, this is just siblings, okay? If I were to say I had four siblings and myself included, I have an older sister, older brother, me, younger sister, younger brother, okay? I can't just say my sister or my brother. That's confusing. I have two of each. So I can go for my brother, I can go, my brother, this one, and point to show I'm talking about my oldest brother, that this is the one I'm focusing on. Especially if you had like two older brothers and you're like, you can't really say older brother, my older brother, like it gets complicated. You can do my brother, this one, or my brother, this one, whichever you set up. Okay. I know that's a lot of complications. It's a lot easier once you actually have that in practice, but it helps to kind of keep where you're at. Okay. It's the same thing for, I've actually used it for like when I take trips. I'm going on like family vacations or things like that. I will say, well, we first did this, then we did that, then we did this, then we did that, and then we went back to this. Like I can even talk about how we went here and there. And we're active family when we go on trips. We're not the kind where we go to the beach and stay at the beach all day. We are the ones that have to go to a museum, have to go to a park, have to do this. There's 20 things we've done. So that's why I like to have a list. Okay. Now, if you have less than five, if you have four, three, two, or just yourself, that works as well. You can do that. This you can, and then just be like, myself, me, that's it. um, but if your family is bigger than six, not bigger than six, bigger than five, so six and up, what you would do is you would do six, and then you would still open your hand to that five, okay? That way you can still list out the five of them, and then you can go to the sixth person, the seventh, eighth, ninth, whichever. Some people will do, it's a little bit complicated, I feel, where they'll do this and then they'll do that, where they have like, it just keeps going. I've seen that, and every time I do it, I'm like, okay, hold on. But who's going to talk? Who's signing now? You have a list, but there's no more hands. So I like to do the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so forth. Okay. And if you have a really, really big family, like really, really big, you may just, want to pick a few highlight ones that you may talk about the most. So there's a few that you're just not going to care. Like you're like, they're not going to bring up. You may just not want to mention them. Just saying. I don't have that problem, luckily. But I know some people. I've had some kids who have like really big families, and I'll be like, well, list them out. And they're like, They'll say, these five, okay. The next five, we're going to focus on these kids. And I'm like, okay. So it's always interesting how, different families are. So there's that with the listing. Let's see. And that one's more of just an explanation. We're not going to really practice it because it is just that movement. Okay. Just that simple movement. 3, 4, either way. I am going to talk about 3 more topics. They're not as much, I mean, they have signs, but they're not as much. They're just, I think, helpful when you're talking about family. Step siblings or step parents, half siblings, half parents. No, we don't have that. Half siblings. My bad. I was going in a good routine and my brain was not having it. And then in-laws. Okay, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, so forth. When you were talking about these 3, they have a different sign for each topic, but they're going to be similar. So for step siblings, step parents, I have seen there are 2 ways I've seen it. One of them I personally don't think is really nice. Okay. It is step. So you brush your nose, brush your finger across your nose. My goodness. Told you guys, by the end of the day, I'm just like, what? And so you would go step, sister, step, sister, step, sister. Okay. Or step mom, step mom. This one I do see more often, step. But the reason I'm not a big fan of it is because you were signing the sign for fake. Like that's fake. So fake mom, fake dad, fake sister. And I don't always like that because I feel like some families, their step parents are really great. Their stepmom is there, they're like their actual mom, their stepdad is there. I know there are different family dynamics, and I think sometimes seeing that step, I'm just like, but like if they're in your life and they're doing, everything as a parent should, calling them a fake parent's just a little, I don't know, to me it's insulting. But that's not what they mean by it ever. It's just that's just the sign that was used for it. I just don't like it. So I typically will go step. I will finger spell step. Um, I do see this one a lot more though. Stepmom, stepdad. So yeah, again, that's a personal opinion. So you can use this if you're like, I don't care. I'm just talking about someone. Step, you can use step. Okay. For half siblings, you typically want to fingerspell half. Okay. I have seen some of my students, okay, and I had to nicely be like, where they will sign half. And this is one half, like actual, like the fraction number one half, one half.
So you like have half a sibling, like literally half a sibling.
Oh,
Yeah.
I literally I've been very sarcastic with them before, and I go, well, which half? Is it like the top half? Where's the half in the line? And they're like, what? And I said, you said you have half a sibling, like you have half sister. And they're like, and I'm like, she's not cut in the middle. And they're like, no, she's real. And I said, okay, then you say half. And they're like, I was like, this is a fraction, kid. This is not a person. So I just always like to add that in there because that was really funny when I had a student go half sister. And I was like, I'm gonna be sarcastic with you right now. And she thought it was funny later. But I just to get them to think, kind of think in their mind, not to always be so follow with the signs, so concrete with just like, oh, well, this is the sign for half. We're gonna use half. Okay. So like I said, finger spelling half for any kind of siblings is the best way to go. In-laws, okay? It's going to basically put the sign for in and the sign for law. All right. The sign for in is in. In. All right. In. Fun fact, the sign for out is out. 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 Just to add that in there. I mean, I know that we're not talking about, well, I mean, you could be talking about outlaws, but that's a whole different concept. So no. But I just had
Wait,
to add it.
outlaws? Okay, now, okay. We got to do outlaws.
Said that was because I was like, well, why am I showing them in, but then I never show them out? And I just thought I would, since we're here, might as well show out. But then I thought about, well, we're talking about in-laws, and then I was like, outlaw. I was laughing at myself. That was,
Okay,
as you can tell, that was
I'm
really
gonna
funny.
submit my own request for cowboy signs so I
I
can
only
learn
know a
some.
few. There's only a few I know, but I know cowboy. But yeah, it's funny. I'm sorry, that made me laugh. I love when that happens. That setup kind of came a little too perfectly. So, but anyway, so in, and then the sign for law, okay, is you're gonna have your non-dominant sideways like this. You are typically gonna have it this way, but I'm turning it so you can see what I'm doing, all right? Your dominant is in an L, and you're going to take your dominant and you're gonna tap the top and then the bottom. Law, law. And so like what I'm doing is I have like my knuckles are touching my hand. Law, law. It's flat. Law, law. Like I almost have my pointer finger kind of sticking out. And that's because it's making that L shape for law. Law, law, law. Okay? So in laws. Excuse me, in laws. So if you're talking about your mother-in-law, mother-in-law. Okay? You can do daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law. You can still do that when you're talking about in-laws, any type. Okay? That made me think of something else I was going to add right here before I forgot, but now I can't remember. Um, yes. Okay. Are there any other family signs you guys can think of? Any that we did not address? Okay. I figured I was like, I think we've back in the day when we were starting this class, people would add so many different types of family like family names. And I felt like every time we had a family class, it was like, okay, What's coming? Who else is going to ask? So I feel like we finally have hit a point where we've gotten all of our different types of family members, and I'm like, yes, yes, we have gotten all the family dynamics. Perfect. Okay. What we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead a little bit and talk about jobs. And the only reason is I want to get this little bit of that concept of what how jobs assigns, how jobs are signed. And then we'll kind of do a few and then we'll stop. Okay? So, when you're talking about different types of jobs, what's really nice is they are basically two signs in one. Okay? Similar to like our daughter and our daughter and our son. Okay? What it's going to be is it's going to be that job's kind of that noun. Okay? You'll see what I mean in a minute. And then the sign for person. Okay? So noun, person. That's what's going to be basically. So we're going to start with the sign for person first because I do think that one's an important one. There are two ways you can do it. And the first one is this is more ASL. So you have just kind of like they're flat fives basically. Okay? And you're going to go person, 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 person. Okay? The other way is more English where it has the P's kind of deal. Person, person. So if you remember our P's are like this, I guess it would be more K's, but it's supposed to be the representing of the P. Person, person, person. All right. So this one's more ASL. This one is more English. All right. Okay. So then what we're gonna when I said a noun. The first one we're gonna do is the sign for teacher. Okay. So what is the noun for teacher? It's gonna be, or I guess this one is a verb. My bad. Nouns and verbs. I'll clarify. Man, I was so proud when I said noun, and I was like, oh yes. Now a verb. So out of that word teacher, we have the word teach. Okay. So the sign for teach is you have flat hand puppets. That's basically what I call them. You're going to come to the side of your head and you're going to go back and forth. Teach. Okay. So this is teach. So for teacher, you're just going to go teach one time and down. Person. Teacher. Teacher. Okay. Teacher. Teacher. All right. That is also for professor. For like colleges, it's the same sign. It does have the same sign. All right. The next one we're going to do is the sign for librarian. All right. So this one has it's a pronoun. Library. No, it's a noun. Oh dear. My bad. Not an English person. I'm sorry. Do not come at me. um, I realized even as I said that, I was like, that is not a pronoun. It's because in my mind, I always capitalize a library because I think libraries are very important. That's just me being the pettiness of me. So for library, it's an L, and you're going to go in a circular motion. Library. Okay? Library. So for librarian, you go library, person. Librarian. Library, person. Okay? The next one we have is going to be an artist. This is where artists can actually kind of modify depending on the type of art it is, but we're going to kind of keep it basic for now. So the sign for art is you have your non-dominant sideways like this or angled like this. You're going to take your pinky from your dominant and you're going to zigzag across your hand. Art, 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 art. So like this is like your easel and you're drawing on it. Art. So for artist, it's art person. Yep. Artist. Artist. Okay. All right. Our next one we have is lawyer. Lawyer is going to take the sign for law and then person. And if you remember when we did our in-laws and our outlaws, we had the sign for law already. Law. Law. So lawyer is law person. Lawyer. Lawyer. Okay? All right. The next one we have is a chef slash a cook. Okay. This one kind of can modify a little bit. The more professional, more elaborate way is going to be cook and then person. But sometimes some people will just do the sign for cook itself. So the sign for cook is you're going to have your non-dominant palm up. Your dominant is going to go flat across it and flip. Cook. So I always think about like you're flipping a pancake. Cook. Okay. So cook, person. Cook, person. So a chef. Cook, person. All right. Then we have a manager. All right. So manager is going to be the sign for manage and person. So manage is you're going to have kind of two X's. You're going to turn them sideways and you're going to go back and forth. Manage, manage. So manager, manager, manager. This also is the sign for control, might I add. Just a little, they go together. They are the same sign. So control, manage. Because if you think about it, when you're managing something, you're in control of something. When you're a manager, you are in control of the room, kind of deal. So, all right, let's see. We'll do one more and then we'll stop because I realize we keep moving through. The last one I want to do is a journalist slash a writer because I know someone asked about that. So yeah, I was like, don't worry, Vahini. I knew that. I was like, I know someone's gonna want this, and I'm gonna put this one in this one for now. That sign in this class for now. I kept saying this one, this one. That was too much. So the sign for writer, just a generic writer, okay, is going to be the sign write and then person. So the sign for write is we're going to have our kind of our easel, our notepad sort of deal again, and you're going to take, it's like you're pinching, and this is your pencil, and you're going to go write, write. So writer, 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 okay? For like a journalist, typically the way I've seen it is you do writer, but then you add a couple different things to it, like a researcher kind of deal, a journal writer that researches kind of deal. You can always fingerspell journal, like journalist. You can do that if all else fails. But because don't come at me when I say this, okay? Don't come at me. But writers and journalists can kind of be, they're in similar mindset because you are putting down a paper, you are developing something that is going to be shared. So, in that basic umbrella, okay? The reason I say that is because in ASL, there's not always 20 different signs for everything. Like the same sign for awesome, amazing, wonderful, fantastic. It's all this. It's all one sign. We may think of, well, awesome is different from amazing, or this is fantastic. It's still going to be the same sign. So it kind of comes down to the root of that meaning. All right. That's why I wanted to say it. So when you say writer, I don't know if that's a very like, if people that journalists are very like, I'm not a writer, I'm a journalist, or that's a different thing. Okay, good. I'm a teacher. Okay. There are high school and middle school teachers that are very like, I'm a middle school teacher. I am a high school teacher. Like they emphasize like it's a big deal. And I'm like, we're still teachers, but okay. So that's why I had to preface that. But if you were going to say like you are a journalist who is researching, or maybe a journalist who is studying something, okay? What you do is you do writer, so writer, and then go, this is study. So it's like you have your fingers bent and you're going to wiggle them back and forth. So I'm study, journalist. I'm a writer. I study things, I review things kind of deal. All right. So writer, journalist, study. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to flip those words. The other one is if you kind of do more of a research-based journalism. And so you'll go writer, and then the sign for research is going to be your same setup here, pointer finger, and you're going to go like this. And it's kind of like you're checking things, check. So I'm a writer, and I hate to say it, but you kind of make that face of like, you're looking for stuff. You're figuring out what's going on. What's happening? What's going on here? That's for like research. Okay. All right, perfect. I'm glad we got that one there because I was like, I know you've been waiting very patiently since like that first class when you sent that to us. I was like, I have to get that one out here.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So, what we're gonna do before we go on to I said we're gonna review. That's what we're gonna do. My bad. I was ready to move on. I was like, nope, we gotta go back again. When we finish our short little review, I'm gonna leave it open for any specific for you guys. And then whatever we don't touch, we will continue next week. All right. So we had our person sign, person, person, or person with the P's, person. And then we had our teacher, teach, teacher, teacher. Then we had our librarian, library, person, library, person. We had our artist, art, person, artist. Okay. And then we had lawyer, so law, person, law, person. And then a chef/cook, chef, person, chef, person. Oh, and then we had writer, writer, writer. And then our fancy little ads with our writer for studying and research. Writer, study. Okay, or writer, research. Research. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to leave it open for any specific signs you guys would like to see, or different job titles. It can also just be more broad for now as well, since it's just kind of, we're getting close in that time and there's not as many of y'all tonight.
Hey, Gillian, how
Yes.
do you sign? Is there a sign for topic? Like if you were trying to tell someone I'm researching a very specific topic.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
There is a way. Okay. Yes, and we will do librarian again. So for when you're talking about a specific topic, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how, like, I'm going to show you the sign for topic, but I'm like trying to see if there's more to add to that sentencing. Okay. So the sign for topic is you have two V's. You're going to bend them like this, and you go topic, topic, topic. Okay. This is also the same sign for title. Okay. And similar to talking about the theme of something. So it's really what's going to be like the focus. If you think about it, it's like, okay, well, the name of the title is important. The topic is important. The theme is important. That sort of deal. It's going to be kind of that similar mindset. If you're talking about a specific topic and you literally say a specific topic, the way you would do it is you would do specific, which is it's like that weird writing pinches again. Okay. And you have your non-dominant palm up, excuse me, with scratching my nose on this dominant here. And you're going to go into circular motion and go boop, specific. You're good. But yeah, so it's specific. It is kind of a complicated one. This one is not necessarily an ASL one. This is a new sign. Very new. But so like the visual, this one is like you're going around looking for what you need and then you find it exactly, like you're pinpointing something specific. Specific, okay? So a specific topic. Okay?
Okay.
Specific topic. And since we'll do this, I promise I will let you be. I was going to say topic also, when you're naming a name of a movie or a book, you most of the time you'll still use this, but you actually do want to kind of fingerspell the names of books and movies before you actually start to sign. The reason for that is because sometimes movies and books will be named something that they're not actually going to be involved with in that sense. Oh, magistrate. Okay, hold on. That one I'm gonna have to look because that's a magistrate. Because I'll ask someone and see, but I'm like, wait a minute, I've not had to use that word in a sentence, so I'll check. I do think, unfortunately, it may be fingerspelled, but I will double check. It never hurts to check and see. There may be a more fancy sign for it, so I will look at that one. What I was saying with the topic is you want to fingerspell it because, like I said, the meaning may not be that itself. Like steel magnolias, okay? I know it's such a random pick of topic, but steel magnolias is not talking about metallic flowers, okay? It's not talking about steel magnolias. It is just a concept. So you have to fingerspell things so that they understand that's what you're talking about. Okay. Sometimes they will sign titles just to be easier, but not always. Okay. The last thing I was going to do before we leave is librarian again. So library is that L. You're going to go in a circular motion. Library person. Library person. Library person. So yeah. Okay. We will continue with our people next week. And then I think we may start trying to think of what other topics we need. Have we been doing emotions lately? I don't know if we've done feelings a
We
lot.
haven't, well, we haven't with this class. We did with the last one.
Okay.
The other thing we didn't do that I thought we could include is witch. We haven't done witch yet, I don't think, right?
Oh, no, we haven't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Yes.
so we could do that if we could do food or animals next week. Um, or we can do emotions. I mean,
I was trying to think of what's a smaller topic that can kind of go in with the people because we have so many more. We'll look at it and we'll see. Maybe we'll let
yes.
them
Yeah, okay, yeah.
because
Well,
we have the list.
Jillian and I will get together and figure out how many signs we have, and then we'll message y'all and
Yes.
figure out how we want to attack it.
Yes, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.